Want to make a bomb? It's surprisingly easy and requires almost nothing. It's not really a bomb yet, but you can make it into one. The experiment is called electrolysis of water, and it's basically, in simple terms, sending electricity through the water to separate the hydrogen and oxygen from the water and turning it into gas. First, you want to think about what you want to do with the gas. Do you want it to measure it for an experiment, or do you want to capture it and explode it later? I personally recommend the second option, for it will go boom. Now, what do you need for this experiment? For this experiment, you will need a glue container, like a bottle, salt water, screws, syringe, and a plastic bag, and a battery, preferably a 9-volt battery. Just a heads up, when you use screws, the elements in the screws might interfere a tiny bit with the purity of the gas. And it's the same thing with the salt water. Salt in the salt water. For tiny traces of chlorine gas also gets released when the electricity passes through the salts. How this experiment works is that the electrodes or screws release the gas when electricity passes through them. Hydrogen gas gets released at the cathode, the negative part of the battery, and the oxygen gets released at the anode, which is the positive part of the battery. Since water is made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, double hydrogen gets released than oxygen. And you can see this, you can see where the hydrogen gets released into all the bubbles coming out of the screws. Since both gases gets released at different ends, it's possible to separate them by putting something between the 2 ends and leaving a tiny bit of space at the bottom for the electricity to pass through the water. But if you don't separate them, you should know that it becomes a lot more explosive. So what I did for this experiment was I screwed 2 long screws into the cap of the bottle with salt water in it, leaving a tiny bit of the screws on top of the cap. Then I made a small hole in the cap and stuck a to measure the rate of reaction. Finally, to finish, I solidified the screws and syringe by using a glue gun to make sure no gas escapes through these small holes. To activate this experiment, you can put a 9-volt battery on top of the screws and it'll start working. And that's all there is to making an explosive gas. To explode it, all you need is a small spark and boom, everything blows up.